I'm going to say it because I always say it at the start of these videos, Nathan. Man, myth, legend. Right, this is Nathan. Anyone who doesn't know you, Nathan, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe, your job, your family, your career, like you as a person? How would you describe you, dude?
Fair enough. I'm 26. I live with my fiance in a house that we own. I'm currently a primary school teacher. That's about to change. Yeah, done all uni and stuff. Awesome. Stumbled across the Warriors through Alan.
Brilliant. So on that note, so prior to joining this program, what would you say your reality was with your health and fitness, your self-confidence, generally your physical ability, and everything prior to this program? So like you said, we'll talk about the job change in a minute, because that's massive. It's so cool, because like it's just mad how easy it is. But anyway, like, what was your situation prior to this program? So what was life like for you, dude?
Yeah, so prior to this, I knew I wasn't happy. I couldn't have necessarily put my finger on the cause of that or even how to change it. I'd had you on Instagram, and I'd seen like people come through the program. You see pictures of it, and I just felt that was sort of unattainable. Like that. Yeah. I can't do that. That's not me. I wasn't fit at all. I didn't go to the gym regularly. I wouldn't go to the gym and know what to do. I would just kind of do something or somebody else's program. I'd try and eat well, but again, I didn't really understand what that was, like the things I needed to do in terms of how to eat or how to look after myself. Mindset wasn't brilliant. Give up at the slightest hurdle. I was not confident at all at work, in my personal life or anything.
Yeah. Mate, fair play for admitting that, because it is hard to actually like sometimes talk about this stuff, isn't it? But like, I think a huge thing we touched upon, because we sort of did a Q&A a little while back about this, Nathan, as well. It's like a lot of us set these goals, don't we? Buy a house, get a car, all this stuff that's very, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying it's expectations on us from society. And I remember we had the conversation where you'd done all those things and you were really happy with that. Yeah. There was something missing, and there was that challenge. Yeah. And like you said, when you weren't 100% confident in yourself, and that confidence, didn't it? It kind of, I remember we talked about this revolving cycle, which I'm sure tons of guys out there who are watching this will also experience. And I had this before I had like some of my own coaches, is like, you don't feel confident in what you're doing. You then end up with like bad behaviors, which then end up with you feeling less confident, which end up like this massive cycle. And that's, like you said, with food and training, that kind of happened. And all of that, Nate, that you just talked about, how did that end up affecting your life, your, relationship, potentially work life? What was the negative effects on you, with all those issues that you were holding on?
Yeah, well, I feel like I couldn't make decisions for myself, really. I just made decisions based upon like what was easiest or what I felt I could achieve rather than what I wanted to achieve. In terms of like my job, I just kept my head down. I said yes to everything because it was easier to do that rather than like stand up and say what I actually thought and felt. Yeah. In terms of my relationship, I feel like she knew I wasn't 100%, but I don't think I could explain to her why or what was going on. And then obviously like communication, you can have issues because you don't know how to explain what's going on. And it's just like you haven't got the energy to do anything or be anything. So
that's the nail there. That's the nail, isn't it? I think the energy levels, like when you don't have energy in yourself, and I've had this before, and obviously Isaac was my coach, and I've had other coaches that I work with now, and a similar thing we talked about is that I know that I struggled with in my relationship is when you don't have the energy, you can't give it to someone else. If you want to go do something or just live your fucking life, do like stuff.
And like a big thing I've learned from you, and that goes in my mind all the time, like if I, like at work or personally, if I ever did something for myself, like took a break at work or something, I felt so selfish. And now I know that you can't, like I always, that image of the mask in the plane, like you've got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. 100%. And they'll get more out of you if you've taken care of yourself first.
110%. And that's it. Like, you've got to put time into you. Like, it's the best investment in the sense of your time, energy, and finances. They have to go into you first to then help other people. And I think that's a huge thing, that then has a real positive effect. And like, I know that obviously, like we said, Alan, he's obviously your, He's not your cousin.
He's like my uncle-in-law.
Yeah, there you go. So that'll do. That'll do. I was trying to work that out. I was like,
yeah.
And you know, he's been in the program for 2 years, almost like smashed it. Obviously, it's fantastic. And I know that you saw his before and after, like you said, and thought, oh, that's unachievable. And I'm sure, I literally guarantee this, the first 90 days that you're before and after, tons of lads will have seen those and gone, oh, that's unachievable. But like, you know, we obviously went for a call. You know, there's quite a stringent process to join us, and I'm sure you'll agree. Like, I think you were in the free group for a little while, weren't you? You were in the free confidence group for a bit.
Yeah, well, I remember arguing with you because I remember arguing with you, and you were like, just like have a call. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it felt like a big deal, but like you know, in terms of like.
I think you said to me, I'm pretty sure these were the words. In fact, I'll try and get them up. Find them,
because they go around in my head, and I think like that is just a different person to what I am now. We were like talking about like investing in the program and stuff, and like me being like, look, that's not going to happen, and like, find them, because
I think what happened,
it'll be on Instagram somewhere.
I'm just going to see if I can scroll up in the chat. I think what happened, from my sort of like recollection, is we got to a point where. Oh, here we go. Oh, hang on, I'll find it.
Yeah.
So I think what basically happened. Oh, that's white. Great. I haven't got those messages. But I think from my recollection, what basically happened is I remember you said to me, like, you'd spoken to Alan and you knew roughly what we charged.
Yeah.
You know, some guys will. You know, and then everyone wants to discuss that. We can talk about that in you know, privately. But anyway, like, I think what happened is you talked to Alan about it, and then basically you said, "Oh, I can't afford it." And then I said to you, I just kind of said, like, I just want to challenge it a little bit. I remember we had this, wasn't necessarily an argument, but it was more a conflict of wills. I think we both said, I said, like, I just want to see like what's been going on for the last 5 to 10 years. And when we kind of like weighed it all up and we added it all up, it worked out that you were, you know, it was thousands of pounds a year, wasn't it? You know,
like when you first think of investing in yourself in that way, it just sounds like this, again, another hurdle. But I think back then I was ready to put, I can't do that. Here's another reason why I can't do that. And actually, like you say, in the long term, you're saving money. Yeah. Because you're not spending money on, you know, like buying bigger clothes because you don't, you know, you don't want to look too big, or going out and eating everything inside, whatever else, or trying to buy things to fill that hole or make you feel confident.
We said, like, if you spend like let's say like £10 a day, like maybe not even that, like, you know, even like £5 a day, we talked about it, you know, like on, like, I don't know, takeaways or you know, maybe rubbish food or whatever. We were working it out the other day, weren't we, with a few of us, and it's like 3 to 4 grand, you know, a year. And I know that probably isn't actually the true representation of it. And then we talked about the fact that, well, if that goes on for 5 years, because 5 years is probably about the time that most of, you know, you guys, or I know I had 3 years where I was kind of going back and 2 years back and forth when I first entered the military. And, you know, we don't realize, but you could end up spending over 5 years, like easily like 20, 30, 40 grand, like without even thinking about it. And the thing of that as well, and we talked about this, Nath, didn't we? And I won't go too much into finances because I hate, you know, just nailing on that point. But I think like sometimes it's the cost to you is the worst thing. I remember that was the conversation we were talking about. It was like, it's not like you're spending that money and that's improving you. It's you're spending that money and we're getting worse. And that was wasn't it? It was like, you know, let's really look at this. And I remember, like you said, you were a bit reluctant to even just get on the first call. But you know, I think sometimes that is. I think what I've sort of thought about, or something I've really sort of done a bit of a deep dive in, you know, is the nervousness of the uncertainty. You know, we talk about often, don't we? Like, confidence is your ability to rely on something or someone. I mention that quite often because I just love that that's what it is. And I think that when you're unconfident in yourself and you're going to present yourself with potentially, you know, I will challenge you. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that was the issue, because I kind of knew you would. And like, you've done it now on like video calls, like in your mind, you feel like you can't do something and there's a perfectly valid reason why. And then you say it out loud to like you and you're like, yeah, but why? Like that reason doesn't actually make sense.
I think that's it. I think like just sometimes I don't know if this is because I'm dyslexic or just because of some of the coaches that I've had, but I think sometimes like I tell you what actually it is. It's probably the Royal Marines and the combination of a few other things. It's like in the Royal Marines, there is literally, they just refuse to allow you to let things like not work. Like I talked about it in the story the other day. And it was the fact of the matter being like, I genuinely have seen like lads gaffer tape like stuff together, or like just like make something out of like whatever that needed, like set it apart for whatever, they just make it somehow, and it just make it work. And I think that's the biggest thing the Marines will teach you. But I remember like we talked about it, didn't we? Like, you know, are you proactively looking for reasons to do something or proactively finding reasons that you can't? And
like
what happens though is if you find a reason not to do something and you don't get a result because you don't do it, but you know that's not the positive manner. Like it feels comfortable, but it's not positive. Whereas if we find reasons to, that'll push us forward. And luckily, you know, you agreed with me, which was great. But looking back at that, Nath, like at that point, if you had have taken the other road, you know, where do you think you'd be now? We're going to talk about some of the positives that you've achieved so far and where you're at. Do you still think you'd be in that bad habits, that negative space? Like,
there was, I couldn't have, some of it was because I didn't know how to get the results or do the things I wanted. So I think I'd be the same way I was, if not probably bigger. I'd be unhappier. Eventually that would have taken a toll on my relationship. It was already like my job was taking a toll on me and I wasn't doing anything about it. And all of that would, like you say, like it would have snowballed and it was building and building and building.
Yeah.
It would have just got worse.
That's the harsh reality. And there's a post that I put up quite recently talking about the 3 futures, and there's future 1.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like, you know, we talk about point A to 6 months to 12 months down the line. If nothing has changed, so you're in exactly the same position. No one likes that either, because it's like, well, you've wasted time. Like you're not getting that year back. That's it. It's gone. But then like future number 2 was like, well, you actually don't improve. You know, you do nothing. And actually the reality is if you've got from a good point to a bad point, you're not going to go from a bad point to a better point. If you do the same thing, you're going to go from a bad point to a worse point. And like you said, like, that's the reality. And like, but let's talk about option 3, which is what you took, right? So you took action. You decided, like, I'm doing this. I'm going to make this, you know, move forward. That's Sophie. You know, and you know, we've worked together now for, you know, a good period. And you know, what was the reality for you, even in the first, say, like 3 months? What was the big achievements you felt that you managed to do?
Well, you inherit, the first immediate thing was that you inherit a group of people doing the same thing. So you inherit a group of people doing the same thing, and like you say, like they raise you up with them, because you're not the only one going to the gym and pushing and challenging yourself. You're like, it becomes the new normal. So instantly you've got like these group of people doing the same thing as you, and so it becomes normal for you.
That's it, isn't
also
it?
Like they're going to hold you accountable. So like, you know, like if like I've still got to turn up on a Thursday or on a Monday or wherever, or I've got to tell 30 guys that I didn't do that thing, or I didn't go to the gym, or I didn't do that other thing. So, you know, you've got that accountability. So that was like instant. You've got those people instantly, like who have, and it doesn't matter like if you're new or whatever, you've got this wealth of wisdom and people who'll have your back.
And I think that's a gap, isn't it? That's filled straight away. Like, you know, the gap that a lot of guys have is they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the accountability, but they also don't have people around them, even if that's virtually, even if that's, you know, how immersive this is. So like, it's just the right frame of mind, you know, because you're bouncing off those other people, like, you know, and looking at everything else, like, you know, the training, the education, like everything that you've filled that gap with as well. Like, what's the difference for you now? Like, you know, we talked about you have formed a fucking brand new identity. Like, what are you now in terms of versus that previous, what we just talked about? Like, where are you now, Nath?
So like, in terms of like my confidence, I've made the choice to change jobs. So, and I think I needed to do that a long time ago, but I didn't have the confidence to pull the trigger and do that, and actually to do something completely different, as opposed to just doing something the same. Doing something the same. So I'm now changing careers to do something completely different. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that. I would have just, like you say, made no choice and just ambled along doing whatever. So in terms of like nutrition, I think I know now, or I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do and how I can achieve that. Whereas I wouldn't have said I don't know. I mean, I'd done Joe Wicks and Slimming World before. So I don't think I knew truly
what needed to be done.
What I needed to do, and I know that now. gym wise, I know where I'm going. I'm not just going so I can like, I went to the gym. I did like the bare minimum for half an hour to an hour or whatever.
What about
I go and I push, or I've got like I did the Tough Mudder and now I want the next thing. So
I was going to say, that was one of the biggest things. I remember that was so like, it wasn't funny, but it was good. I remember I literally went on the call with you, and then straight away you were like, I want to book a Tough Mudder. And I was like, okay, book it now. And you were like, what do you mean? I was like, get your phone out and book it now.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you were like, oh, right. And like with stuff like that, Nath, like, you smashed that. I know that you were down, a ton of weight, which has been fantastic as well. How much weight did you lose in the first 90 days? Just remind me of that.
Around 2 stone, if not just shy.
Yeah. And that's it. Like you said, like, people are watching this thinking, what fuck, 2 stone? And you're like, and that was simple, really.
Yeah, but and it wasn't even like I had to try. Like I'd done it before, where you're eating like chicken and broccoli, or like chicken, rice and broccoli, or like you don't have it. But I didn't do any of that. Like you once said to me, you can have anything, you just can't have everything.
That's it. So, that's literally it. It's just basic principles and drilling them really aggressively. And I think that's the thing, is like you've entailed that. And like you said, like you previously didn't want to book the 5K, smash that Tough Mudder, which was fantastic. What's the next goal for you in terms of that? So I know you talked about it earlier.
Yeah, so like the next thing I've booked is like a 15K inflatable run.
Boom.
That's like a short-term goal to keep me going. Obviously we've got a load of stuff with we've got a load of stuff booked with like what do you call it? The Crusade.
Yeah.
What is that what you call it? Yeah.
Deadlift, bench press, back squat, tough, and a 9 mile, 6 mile, and a marathon. Yes. Yeah. Anyone who's heard that is exactly what's going to be happening. Which is epic, mate. There's obviously like 14 of you on that journey, which is going to be insane. And like, looking at all that, Nath, so like you look at your position beforehand, losing 2 stone now in literally the first 3 months, let alone what you've been able to do now, smashing a 5K, now going on to do a 15K, plus all the stuff that you've got booked and ready. Everything that we've done with you so far, I know what I'm going to ask, but like your career changes, your like confidence now. Do you feel like so far, just alone, this has changed your life?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's difficult to put into words how far I feel I've come, and not just that, how far I want to go. So I know that me now, if I had got a window into who I am now when I first started, I think me then would have been like, I'm happy to look that way, think that way, and that would have been enough. But now it's not enough anymore. Like, I want more. And that would never have occurred to me to be like that. Like it was you do that and you stop and you're finished. It's not like that in my mind anymore.
What happens with a lot of lads, don't they, is they probably lose a stone, and then they, like when they are doing that chicken and rice bollocks, which I fucking hate, like they lose a stone and then they go, oh, fuck it, I'll just put it back on, lose it, put it back on, lose it, put it back on. Whereas like, I always talk about, don't I, like, I want you to form this as like fully, like, I don't care about the next, I do care, right? That's not the right term, but like, I don't just care about the next 6 months, 12 months. I care about like the rest of your life, in terms of, I want you to literally be like 80 years old and still able to move, like, and active, and looking back at all the achievements you've done in your younger years and be like telling your kids, telling your grandkids, like all this stuff is what we really want to form as a group. And I think that's the biggest difference potentially. Like, I know you talked about it before in a live where we said about like, it's just a different culture, which I think is brilliant. What about, some of the guys are going to ask the most, I get it, like they're going to ask some questions about logistical stuff, like how do you find the actual delivery of what we do? So for instance, like, the education from guys like Ollie Ollerton, the guys from like the guys from
I remember like when I was first having the conversation with Alan, I remember being like, hold on, so like I'm going to have to go to the gym at least 3 times a week. And then there's video calls as well. Like, when am I going to have time to have a life? I remember thinking that. It's actually not intrusive. Like, it's not intrusive. And like you say, like, if you want something, you'll like make the room for it. So, obviously the workouts, realistically, I think, when I first started, it was about 45 minutes maximum. Like, that would have been the most I was doing 3 times a week. In terms of like the video calls, we've got the catch up one, which is brilliant. Like just that low key one Sunday morning. Like I like this Sunday I was sat in my pajamas.
I actively tell you lot, don't I? I'm like,
yeah,
fuck, just turn up.
I literally have like your drink, and you're just sat there catching up, and it's just an opportunity to review your week, which actually, if you don't set aside the time to do, you won't do it. So it's about sitting down and reviewing the week, and then I mean the days I mean, you're quite flexible in that. You'll be like, what days work for people, because I'll move it. Yeah. The education is brilliant. Like we've had Ben Williams, haven't we? That's his name, isn't he? He wrote the book, so we read the book and we had him, so that was brilliant. Obviously we have Becca come in and do stuff. Who else have we had? We've got so many people. I can't think of any of them now, of course, if you've asked. But like, we've had so many people, like so much stuff come in. Obviously we get you. But yeah, so we normally have like 2 video calls a week.
What would you say to, the guy that is previous Nathan, and he's skeptical about, like, he's, that guy, right? That guy, you beforehand, potentially there's a bloke out there who's doing something similar where he's going, I can't afford it. I don't have time. I don't have the energy. I don't, they're finding all these reasons, right? And they've racked up all these reasons. Yeah. What would you say to that bloke who's potentially also struggling? He's also gaining weight. He's also potentially on his way to, not to put it bluntly, but a serious health implication down the line. Yeah. If not, a serious mental problem down the line, or serious, repercussions for not doing anything about it. What would you be saying to that bloke now you're on the other side of it? What would you say?
Just have that first conversation, like just like open yourself up to like just a little, just do like a little bit. And like, I was reading the David Goggin book, and he says, like, if you imagine, like when you start a fire, you don't get the great massive log. If you're starting a bonfire, you don't get the great massive log and chuck it on and expect that it's going to light. Like if I imagine, like for me, like for now, my marathon maybe is that massive log. It doesn't start like that. You start with a match and kindling, and the the logs and stuff gets bigger and bigger. So that would be my advice. Just do like the first step. Take that. You don't have to. Don't worry about the massive stuff in the future. Just think about like the very little steps and take it from there.
And I think that's it, isn't it? Like, there's no, I think the option to do nothing is the opposite. Like, don't do nothing.
You think like it just feels at the time the easier choice. You think like it's easier, and now, like even now I fall into the trap. Like you say to yourself, you've had a busy week. Don't go to the gym, or you've had a busy week. You can eat more than, you've said you would. And actually, you think you're being kind to yourself. You think you're letting yourself have it easy, but you're not, because you're paying for it, because you're not happy, and if you were happy, then that's fine. But there's clearly something in you that says something has to change, or you would be happy. So there's something there.
That's true. That is true. I think that's the thing. It's the opposite to be kind. Being kind to yourself is sometimes doing things you don't want to do. It's sometimes listening to your brain. It's sometimes like, going for your walks. It's putting your laptop down. It's maybe doing all these things that actually proactively are for you. They're not for something that we kind of according ourselves to. And I think the thing with it as well is comfort. Comfort is a huge thing that holds a lot of lads back. And I'm not saying I'm the most uncomfortable person. Like relatively, most of us have got quite comfortable lives normally. And I think when you never test that comfort zone, that's actually a cause for low confidence, because you're not sure if you could do it. And that's
you're constantly fighting your brain, aren't you? Because your brain's got like the homeostasis. That's what it's what. That's your brain's job. Your brain's job is to make sure, but we're not cave people. We don't have to worry about what comes next. And like the Marine program, the ones that's been on I think it's BBC Two. Like I remember watching things like that and going like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, why would you take yourself to the coldest, wettest thing and put yourself through hell? And now I'm like, because it's a challenge, because you can like stretch yourself and prove that you can and do that next step. Like, I willingly, like you started, when we first started, we did that cold shower challenge. Yes. I would be in the shower, like almost like why? Now, like I do one every day. Like I have a cold shower. I have my shower, cold shower every day, and you can't explain that change in mindset until it's happening. Really,
I think the biggest thing, the biggest reason why doing something uncomfortable or doing something challenging and achieving it and sticking at it will increase your self-confidence is it's a comparable to the next challenge. Now, you know, like let's say experience. I think experience is one of the best things in the world. Like you have to have experiences. Like, and Gaz Baxter, he's actually, you know, SBS, like previous like special forces. He talked about in one of the lectures that I was in for one of my coaches a while back, like Dan Hancock. He talked about you can't be experienced without having experiences. So, for instance, like when you put it really bluntly, if you're a pilot and you've only done 1 hour of flying, you're inexperienced because you've only had 1 hour of flying. You've only experienced flying for an hour. If you've flown for 1,000,000 hours, I don't even know if that's possible, but like, you know, something like that, you'd obviously be very experienced and you'd be very clued up on all these things. It's the same when it comes to challenges. I think the unfortunate reality for a lot of blokes is we shut off the world, we put ourselves in this box, we sit in the corner and we expect ourselves to just everyone to leave us alone. And I don't want to be, you know, bothered. But I think the problem with that is then you're limiting yourself to have no experiences that you can rely on and look back on. And like you said, it's like a big thing in the military is the lads who drill these things over and over and over again, and they've done so much of this stuff that is quite challenging, or they've done it even outside in their own, you know, when they go into their civvy careers. And I know that's something I've tried to do quite a lot, is that you look back on those when you have the next challenge, and like, you know, not trying to live a easy life is impossible. Like it is actually impossible. So like a big thing that, you know, I try to talk to you lads about, don't I, is like you can't expect to go through the next 80 to 100 years without something presenting itself that will derail. Like it's just going to happen. People will die. That is a reality. Like it's not even like oh, okay, hopefully I'll live forever and this will all be great and I can just, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Like it might be harsh to say, but it's the reality. Like you will get fired from a job at some point, potentially. That's statistically on the card.
Change is inevitable. And I feel like you say, like with this little boxing, I feel like I was in what I would term like survival mode. Like where I did the bare minimum that I needed to do to get by. And I think the first time I fully realized that I was doing that was lockdown, was when everyone was complaining, like, or, you know, even then I started to think that all I did was sit and watch TV. And actually I realized, well, when I had the freedom, I was doing that anyway. Like I wasn't doing anything anyway. And I only realized that when that was the only choice that I had, I didn't want to do that anymore. And that was when I first started to be like, right, you know, something's got to change.
I think that's it, isn't it? Like when you don't have those experiences to rely on, you can't come to the next challenge. And I think that's the biggest difference I've seen in you, mate. Is, you know, I know actually what okay, we'll go on to one point because I thought this was awesome. What have your friends, family, or people thought about this new you? What's the compliments or things you've got? And then we'll go into a little bit about identity.
So I've got a guy that he's like I said, he's about to join the Marines literally a week today. The last time I saw him would have been literally just before Christmas, which is, you know, and then I joined in the early like literally start of January. And then the last time I saw him was like the Jubilee weekend. And he was like, you know, like a different person. You're so confident. And it wasn't even like, we were just having a chat in a beer garden. Like, and he could just see from that I was different, the way I held myself and spoke to him and stuff. And certainly like at work, you know, I think people are like they realize now that I work, you know, I'll say yes when it's right, but actually if I'm more willing to stand up and speak my mind, and it's the same in family. And like, then I think with my relationship, I think I'm able to be more open, more honest and vocal. And again, like the energy, you've got the energy. So sometimes I think you don't realize how much you've changed until other people start saying things. And then you go, well, actually, yeah, I have made a big change.
And that's it. It's the identity of who you are. Like you've come across these challenges, you've gone against these things and won. And then like we talked about it, because you're forming that, it takes time though. It takes time to form an identity. Like it's not something that's done in a week. Like you don't become mentally, physically, emotionally stronger or in line with that within the space of a week. It doesn't work like that. Like you have to form a new person, you have to do new routines and new things. And do you know what I think a huge thing is, and I want to make sure I get this right. A good man is not one who just isn't violent, right? Now, bear in mind with this. Let me fully explain this before. Whatever. Like a like passive, you know, someone who's not willing to, in some way, shape, or form, use aggression in a purposeful way, isn't somebody who's a good man. And the reason being is because all that does is push you over, push you to one side, and ultimately no decisions are made for yourself. Now, when I talk about violence and aggression, I don't mean going and beating people up and fucking slotting people in the street. I don't mean that. What I mean is using it and channeling it, because that's what we are built as with blokes and women as well. We are built for violence. Like, there are things that we just intrinsically have. And you've got to consider that when you go to the gym and you train, that is the nowadays outlet for that aggression and violence, which therefore, when you know, like you said there, Nate, you hold yourself differently because you feel different. You know, you go into, you know, tasks, meetings, challenges differently because you know the powers that you have. Now, I know that's getting a bit airy-fairy, but what I mean by that is that, like, when you create those types of men who know they can rely on themselves, they know that they could defend their partner, they know that they've got this intrinsically ingrained in them, that mindset is then taken into other things. And it's completely true. Like, you know, Ollie Ollerton and Breakpoint, they talk about that quite a lot in the terms of the short-term discomfort for the long-term gain of everything else. And that identity is, you're forming that identity as like a, you know, we talk about quite often, don't we? Like, a real man isn't some bloke who goes out every weekend and drinks 20 pints, beats his wife up and wears his vest. Like, that's not real blokes. They're actually very insecure and, you know, whatever. It's about guys who know that they can go into challenges and take them on and not give up, or try their absolute hardest, or, you know, they push for improvements, they push to help other people, they push to be like that strong leader, and they hold themselves to that standard. I just wanted to explain that, because otherwise, violence and aggression,
you hold yourself accountable, and you're not happy to like settle anymore.
And what would you say, Nate? So, last sort of points, really, because obviously I can talk all day, you know that. But like, there are guys who are still going to be skeptical. They're still going to be not sure. What would you say to those lads who do say, I can't invest in it, and I just don't feel like, you know, I don't feel like I can achieve those results? What would you say about those two particular things?
Like, what do you want for yourself? Because if you're not, you've come this far, and if you're not where you want to be, there's no shame in asking for help and asking somebody who knows. It doesn't have to be a pride thing. If I could not have done or achieved the things I've done or changed the way I have on my own. So to take that first step and commit to change and say that you want something better or different for yourself, have that first phone call, have that first conversation.
Would you say, if anyone wants to speak to you and they're not really sure, they could have a chat with you, Nath? Because I always I always say, like, go speak to the lads who you can actually see have got the result. Like,
go for it.
And I always say, and actually, I spoke to my granddad the other day, and I talked to him, but he didn't really know what I did, and I explained what I did, and I kept saying the word "us." So I was like, you know, it's how we work, and like, that's the biggest thing with me. Like, this isn't just me. Like, I can't do this on my own. You know, like, the community is the strongest element of what makes this work. You know, like, when you have a band of brothers and a group of people together like yourself, like, you've literally walked a path that another bloke, like, literally, when you look at like lads like Sam, Johnny, Jake, Connor, you know, lads who've just joined now, they're going to slot in, look at you and go, well, he's done it, so I know that I can do it, and I trust that he can help me do it. And at the same time, like, through the education for everything that we have already done, it's like, and then someone else who's, you know, Max, who's just done his 100-mile race, he can give you advice for your marathon. Like, that's the biggest stronghold, is like, don't just come and speak to me, go speak to the lads.
And like you say, you're always saying other people aren't, like, in the group chat, people are given an answer before you can even get in.
It's impossible now. I message people like, how are you getting on? Like, what's going on with this? Like, you know, just checking in with blah blah. And they're like, yeah. Alan answered this. Like, Ryan, it's like minutes, isn't it? It's like, and that's I think that's one of the biggest things that helps you change. Is like, you know, when you try to Google something or you're not really sure and you don't have a clear answer, you can't make a change because you're like, fucking hell, like, it's taken me years to actually come to terms with this. Whereas, like, if someone answers your question within a minute, I think it is literally like, Ryan is nuts.
You'll have like 10 different things. I've done this, such and such has done that. And I mean, these aren't just like random people on a group chat. Like, these are people that I've now like invited to stay at my house, come on my stag do. Like, these are like friends that you have made, like brothers that you have made, and like instant. It's you know.
And I think that's shared hardship and also shared commitment. Like, when you have all gone through, all of you, very similar to myself, have all gone through something in some way, shape, or form that's led you to the point of wanting to join. And you've also committed to yourself, because that's what we have to have, which means that you know that every person's had to walk through that. And then when they do go into that challenge, you know you're doing it all together, which is massive. But
Yeah.
It's been absolutely fantastic as always, Nathan.
Yeah.
I'll sort of here because you know I'll go fully on. But have you got any last closing points you would want to say to anyone who's thinking about doing this, or anything you'd want to finish with, really?
Yeah, message me if you've got questions. And my first advice would be is just take the first step, because it's not a bigger deal as you think. It's not that scary. It just gets that snowball going.
Perfect. Awesome, dude. I'll start recording there. Absolute legend, Nathan. You smashed it. And as Nathan said, anyone who wants to message him, drop him a message. The page will be tagged here. But yeah, legend.